Hello everyone, I'm Stephanie Haney. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd. Welcome back to 3 News Now. Thank you for joining us here, where we go over the top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. We start today with another big development in the murder case of Nakia Crawford, the recent high school graduate, the 18-year-old teenager who was shot last Sunday on June 14th while she was stopped at a traffic light with her grandmother. The Akron police say they believe it was a case of mistaken identity and that the person who shot Nakia Crawford did not know they were shooting Nakia Crawford, instead thought that they were shooting and killing someone else. So a second suspect has now turned himself in the case of the murder of Nakia Crawford. The person who is believed to have shot Nakia Crawford remains not in custody at this time. 18-year-old Jayon Bivens, who has been charged with obstructing justice and tampering with evidence, turned himself in just after midnight this morning, accompanied by his attorney. The first suspect who was taken into custody was 24-year-old Janisa George. She has been charged with obstructing justice. She turned herself into police last week. Now, the person who is believed to have shot and killed Nakia Crawford is 17-year-old Adaris Black, has been identified as that suspect. He has been charged with murder and is not in custody at this time. There is, however, a $5,000 reward being offered for anyone who can offer information related to the solving of the murder of Nakia Crawford. That would include, at this time, helping to bring the suspect, Adaris Black, into police custody. If you have any information related to that shooting, you are asked to please call 1-866-4-WANTED or go to usmarshals.gov and find the area where they deal with the Ohio cases, and then you can give whatever information you are able to give there. And it is also possible, by the way, to give information anonymously. Here in Ohio, Vice President Mike Pence is expected to visit Northeast Ohio this week. He plans to be at the unveiling of Lordstown Motors' new all-electric truck. That will be on this Thursday. So according to officials, the vehicle that will be unveiled on Thursday is the 2020 Endurance. So it's all electric, and it's expected to cost less in the long run than the Ford F-150 truck. Vice President Pence is expected to give a speech at the reveal and then is later expected to attend an event with law enforcement and community leaders before heading back to Washington, D.C. Now, we're not exactly sure what kind of public attendance is expected at this event. We do know that over the weekend, President Donald Trump had a campaign rally in Tulsa that filled about 1/3 of the venue. This was despite the fact that 6 of his staffers tested positive for COVID-19, but the event went on as planned anyway, admittedly with less people than they expected to be at the event. Also, not a lot of people were wearing masks at that event. That brings us to our next story. Dr. Anthony Fauci is testifying before a House committee today on the coronavirus response here in the U.S. Now, Dr. Fauci is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and he has held that role since 1984. So he'll be testifying today along with the heads of the Centers for Disease Control, the Food and Drug Administration, and a top official from the Department of Health and Human Services. They'll be talking about coronavirus cases that are rising in about half the states. They're also expected to say that a vaccine is quite a ways off. So what we need to do right now, this is what the experts are expected to say today as they testify before the House, that in order to keep outbreaks under control, the best tool in our arsenal right now is to maintain that social distance, that physical distancing. Trump said at his weekend rally in Tulsa that he had actually asked administration officials to slow down testing because too many cases were turning up positive. White House officials, however, later tried to walk that back, saying that he did not mean for it to be taken literally. Trump is scheduled to visit Arizona today. That is also a coronavirus hotspot where the rate of positive COVID-19 tests is about 20%. So we're hearing a lot of talk about it's possible that the number of positive cases are going up because the number of tests are going up, but that 20% positive test rate is above the threshold for widespread transmission here in the U.S. That's according to experts. Dr. Anthony Fauci has recently warned that the U.S. is still in the first wave, so there has been some tapering that we've seen in some places, but medical experts are saying we are not through the first wave. We are still in the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, and is continuing to urge Americans to practice that physical distancing. He also said that demonstrations of all kinds are risky to everyone involved. That does include the demonstrations that have been happening seeking racial justice across the country, and that does include campaign rallies, Fauci specifically stated as well. He continues to say that widespread testing is critical for catching clusters of COVID-19 before they turn into full-on outbreaks in any particular area. Just to remind you where we were as of yesterday afternoon, according to Johns Hopkins University, there are nearly 2.3 million known cases of COVID-19 here in the U.S., and the total number of deaths in the U.S. as of yesterday afternoon at 2 p.m., according to Johns Hopkins University, was 120,044. Let's take a look at where our numbers were here in Ohio yesterday at 2 p.m. when we get those new numbers from the Ohio Department of Health. Yesterday, cases were way up. Deaths were also up and hospitalizations were up, but the number of new ICU admissions was down. Yesterday, we saw 729 new reported cases of COVID-19, bringing our total dating all the way back to March 9th to 45,537 cases of COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio. The total number of deaths from all of those cases is now 2,704. Yesterday, we saw 4 new deaths reported. That's up from 3 new deaths reported on Sunday. And the total number of hospitalizations throughout this entire pandemic that we know of here in Ohio is now 7,292. We saw 50 new hospitalizations on Monday. That's up from 41 hospitalizations on Sunday. Now, the ICU admissions is where we saw a slight decrease, ever so slight. There were now a total of 1,852 people who have been admitted to the ICU because of COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio. Yesterday, we saw 8 new ICU admissions, which is down from Sunday when we saw 11 new ICU admissions. Despite the fact that we saw a huge jump in cases yesterday in the COVID-19 coronavirus reported over the last 24 hours, Kings Island is moving forward with its plans to reopen and is giving a little bit of information about how you can make those reservations if you do want to go to Kings Island in Cincinnati. So they will be open starting July 2nd, and they will be open for season pass holders only from July 2nd through July 11th. Now, starting July 12th, the general public will be able to go to Kings Island, but that will be based on reservations only. You do still have to make a reservation, and that will be available online, which is not yet set up, but that will be available online once they get that system in place. The hours for the entire month of July at Kings Island will be from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., except for on Saturday, the 4th of July, which is personally my favorite holiday. They will be open until 10 p.m. on Saturday, July 4th. If you are a season pass holder for Kings Island, you can only have one active reservation at a time, so you can't really plan that out. You can make one reservation at a time, and then when that's cleared, then you can make your next reservation for the next time you want to visit Kings Island. Now, remember that if you have a temperature of more than 100.4 degrees, you will not be allowed into the park, and masks will also be required of everyone who attends Kings Island. They will have spaces that are called relax zones, however. If you're in a relax zone, you can take your mask off. And they do have a disclaimer that if you are attending Kings Island, that you are voluntarily assuming all risks related to exposure to COVID-19. Now let's end things on a good note here. We'll talk about BEYONCÉ. She dropped her new song Black Parade over the weekend in celebration of Juneteenth. Juneteenth, if you're not aware, there's been a lot of conversation about this, a lot of conversation about the fact that many high school history curriculums didn't include information about Juneteenth. Juneteenth happened on June 19th, so this was when the last slaves became aware, the last people who were enslaved, became aware that they had been freed by the Emancipation Proclamation. It took them 2.5 years from the time the Emancipation Proclamation was signed for the last people who had been enslaved in Galveston, Texas, to get word that the war was over and to get word that they had been freed. And that happened on June 19th. So that is why we celebrate Juneteenth as the day that the last people who had been enslaved became aware that they were free, even though they had technically been free for 2.5 years before they knew it. So, in honor of that, Beyonce dropped a new song, Black Parade, celebrating Black culture and Black people and Black businesses. And as part of that, she created a list of Black businesses that people can patronize, and she posted it on her website. She called it the Black Parade Route. And as part of that, she included 3 businesses based right here in Northeast Ohio. The first business is called Herbal City, with city spelled Ciddy. It's a holistic skincare line that was created by Sydney Moorer, and you can support her business at herbalcity.com. That's herbal, Ciddy.com. The second business is called Collective Casting. That was created by CEO Ariana Beninato. That was in 2017, and their goal is to represent models, talents, and artists of color. This company has booked jobs for its clients, including Balmain, which we know Kanye West and Kim Kardashian West are huge fans of, Essence, and Showtime. That's just to name a few of places where their clients are working. You can find more information on their website at collectivecasting.co. Again, that is collectivecasting.co. And the third business is a plant-based and organic skincare beauty line called Promises to Care. Now, this is a Northeast Ohio-based business founded by Alicia Cleveland. You couldn't have a more perfect name to have a Northeast Ohio-based business like that. And what she offers is organical botanical blends curated to help heal and nourish all skin types. So on the website for Promises to Care, they say this, that they want to provide holistic, natural ingredients that work for all women and men of all ages and provide organic products at a reasonable cost. I think that sounds pretty great. You can check out that business at promisestocare.com, and you can check out all of the Black-owned businesses that Beyonce has curated with the help of an Instagram account, black.owned.everything, and also Zarina Acres to put that list together. That's on Beyonce's site. We've also got that linked on WKYC.com and in our WKYC app. This is a great time to remind you, if you don't yet have our WKYC app, to make sure you download that. You can download that in the App Store if you have an iPhone device, or in the Google Play Store if you have an Android device. You'll get the most up-to-date information. You can also stream all of our shows live there, which is a great tool to have if you don't have cable like me and like many other people. We will be back here at 2 p.m. as soon as we get those updated numbers from the Ohio Department of Health to see where COVID-19 cases are standing here in the state of Ohio. And if you would like to tune in to Dr. Fauci and the rest of those experts who are testifying live, you can find that right now on WKYC.com and in the WKYC app. I'll see you back here at 2 p.m. I'm Stephanie Haney.